So I'm assuming that you clicked on this video because you're confused about which parenting style is best. And I feel like there are so many out there. They are constantly coming up with new names to define the parenting style that I feel like somebody thinks is best, really, is what that comes down to. And it can be so overwhelming as a parent because you're on Instagram and you see things about gentle parenting, and you come on here and you see conscious parenting, and then you go over here to this blog post and it says something about peaceful parenting, and you're like, what is right? Like, what is going to raise this good, loving child? And it's important that we keep in mind that this information, while it's awesome and it's so great to have a ton of information, can also be a bit much, a bit, I don't know, information overload. And I want to encourage you today that as a certified parenting coach, I don't have a parenting style. And you're like, what? You're a parenting coach and you don't have a parenting style? That's crazy. But no, really, I do not believe in one parenting style. I feel like as parents, that's our job, is to feel or to figure out really our parenting style that works best with our children. And honestly, with each kid, it's going to vary child to child. Now, before I get even further into this video, I know that people are going to start saying here at this point, oh, great. So you're totally for that kind of authoritarian parenting style, or you're totally for permissive parenting. Great. I fall in one of those. No, 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 that's not what I'm saying. I definitely do not believe in punishments. I've talked about this before. I definitely err more on the side of what I like to call corrections. But that is something for another video that I keep saying I need to do. But truly, I do need to do that at some point. But today, what I want to talk to you about is my stance on the parenting style that I use, and then what I love about some of the top more gentle parenting styles. So if you're here and you are all for that authoritarian style of parenting, very much that power over the one that's in charge, this is definitely not the video for you. But maybe you will learn some things from this video and it will just encourage you or shift your mind a little bit. And that's okay. And I want to encourage you that if you are in a space where you're not doing all these things, or maybe these things just don't feel like they align with you right now, that is okay. That is part of the process. That's part of learning who you are as a parent. And that is super important, knowing who you are. And that's really where this begins for me. So when I work with parents, I let them know right up front, I don't have a parenting style, and I'm not going to impose my parenting style on you. My job is really to help you to understand what your values are as a person, as a human being, what your values are as a family, and then how do you blend those together and approach every situation with that in mind. Now, let's back up just a little bit here. So, not only am I going to help with the values, understanding the values of you as a person and you as a family, but I'm also going to help you discover your strengths. And that's what's going to help you to approach each situation with true confidence. I find that most parents really struggle because they aren't confident going into a situation. They really fall really either way into that permissive parenting or that authoritarian style of parenting, all because they're just not confident in how to handle a situation. And so they kind of feel like their hands are tied. And so it's either I'm going to, whop you on the butt, or I'm just going to totally ignore it and pretend it's not happening. And neither of those things are beneficial for children. And so my hope is that by giving you the insight, by kind of looking into your snow globe, as I like to say, and putting all these pieces together, we can help you to figure out a way to best approach each situation. And granted, I know each situation is different, right? Every child is going to have different feelings, different needs. They're going to have different moments that are more intense than another child, and you're going to have to figure out how to deal with that. And it's really our job as the parent to help our child navigate these really big moments, these learning moments. And I just don't believe that punishing them which is basically using fear. I'd rather use that terminology. But using fear is going to actually motivate them to do differently. It's just going to suppress what they want to do, that feeling that they're having, the behavior. And then another behavior is going to start after that. And that's why so many parents who come to me right in the beginning are like, well, I'm like, what are you dealing with? And they're like, well, we're dealing with hitting, and we're dealing with biting, and we're dealing with back talk, and we're dealing with, all of these things. And it's all because one behavior is just replacing another. And before you know it, your child has turned into this child that you don't even know, this little human that you don't even know. And so it's so important that we really know who we are, what we believe, what we value, what our strengths are, so we can approach each situation with this true, just love and confidence. And when we keep those things in mind, like for myself, my two big things are kindness and connection. And I'm going to be honest here. This has changed from my very start of my beginning over a year and a half ago. I would say that version of me, my value is cooperation. I really wanted cooperation. But right now, in the season I'm in, I am needing kindness. That is like a need I'm having. It's something I really value. That's really important to me. So, I value kindness. I value connection. And so when I come up to my child, when they're having a situation, I'm pausing and I'm reminding myself of these two things. I want to show up with kindness, and I want to show up with connection. And so I then step into that moment with those things at the forefront of my mind. This doesn't mean I do this perfectly every time. Yes, I'm a parenting coach. This doesn't mean I do this perfectly every time. And that is where apologies come in, by the way. But that's another video for another day. So I feel like when we approach the situation like that, it changes how our eyes see things. It changes how we would actually handle the situation. And that is the beauty of not getting attached to a parenting style, because it almost kind of boxes you in, and it requires you to do things a certain way. And I think the worst thing that we could have done is start giving parents scripts or things that they should be saying that will make their child behave. But that's just purely not true. Like, those things are not going to help a child to behave or to do the things that we're asking. It's just simply going to get them to, well, they're just going to do it because they're complying. It's like the best way to say it. So anyhow, I find that it is really important for us to deeply in our soul know who we are, how we want to show up, and then bring that to our children. So with that being said, I'm going to look at my notes because I can already tell I'm getting off, you guys. I could be here all night. So I guess I'll start with that. If I had to pick a parenting style that I most resonate with, I would say I most resonate with conscious parenting. I probably err more on that side if I had to pick one. But I wouldn't say that I believe in all of it. I really struggle to call myself any type of parent. In the beginning, I think erred on the side of gentle parenting. I really liked this idea of having scripts, but the more comfortable I've become with who I am, how I'm showing up, and just really getting comfortable with my emotion and my feeling, the more I am willing to step outside of the boxes of these parenting styles. And so, yeah, I guess I just have a really hard time making anyone really resonate with me. So I think that my biggest concern as a parent is that I tend to pendulum swing. It is a pattern of mine that I discovered in the last 6 months, that prior to even learning about parenting things before going to school, I would go from permissive parenting to the authoritarian parenting style. And that is my biggest fear. And I see that in so many other parents. They go from just like, I don't even know what to do, so just go ahead, walk all over me. And that's what a lot of people, I say, misname gentle parenting as. They think of gentle parenting really as permissive parenting. But then we just pendulum swing right into the authoritative, people don't like when I say that word, but this very authoritarian style of parenting, this very power over, I'm better than, you will obey me, that kind of parenting style. And I don't want to do with, I don't want to be in either side. I want to be in this parenting with. And this is going to give people all kinds of like, oh, parenting with, this sounds horrible. I'm supposed to be the one that's in charge. And I just want to remind you that a child that is in an authoritarian style parenting, I feel like typically that's what I hear. They do not learn how to negotiate. They do not learn how to have a voice, how to be heard. A lot of times those kids can be really loud. They can be attention seekers because they don't believe that what is coming up for them matters. It does not matter what's going on for you. I don't care that you're upset. I don't care that you're sad. I don't care that you have something else you want to do. You need to obey me. And that parenting with style, this approach where I'm coming alongside my child and hearing them, fully hearing what's going on for them, being open and willing to understand their side of things. And sometimes that means like, yeah, you asked for paint. I originally said no, but then you explained yourself and you promised me that you were going to clean it up. Great. I'm going to help you see it through, that you're going to clean it up. And even my 4-year-old, you guys, 4 years old, okay, she is doing these things and she's learning how to negotiate. She would not learn how to negotiate if I was a power over parent, if I was, you must obey me. I want to give my children a voice, but also help them see that through what we've just negotiated on. They're not going to learn compromise just by working with other kids. Like, yes, that's one way. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to learn how to do that well, because it's not modeled well, right? It's not modeled well. And that's really where kids thrive, is off that modeling. Now, I know what people are going to start saying to me here. Yeah, but when we focus on this modeling, or we are a more parenting with, kids are never going to respect their authorities. And I encourage you to really think about and research, like really research it. This took me a while to grasp. Am I calling respect not what it is? So I think what I was doing for so long is I was calling respect obedience. And I was really making the two very muddy. And I think that, this respect thing and the obedience thing, which I've actually done a whole video on biblical gentle parenting, and I talk a little bit about it in there. But I think that we have to really realize, like, there is a way that we can teach our child to respect their elders, I guess, if you want to say. They're those in authority. Like, yes, they are going to have bosses. Yes, they do have teachers, and they should respect those teachers. But there is also nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong with them asking a question, negotiating. They don't just have to do what that person says. There is a way to say that is very kind, that is very respectful, that they can be heard. And a very good leader, somebody who is a very good leader, is going to be a great listener. And if they do not have somebody in authority above them who honestly does not deserve their respect because they are not hearing them, They are treating them with disrespect. They are commanding. This is not somebody they want to be working for, or they should be working for. And we should be teaching them and advocating for them in that way. So I get asked that a lot. So I really wanted to like debunk. Like, I feel like this video is a lot about debunking. So yeah, I hope that that helped. So in this next part of this live, I want to talk about the different parenting styles and what I really love about them. Because there are some things that I actually really like about a lot of the parenting styles, except for the permissive and authoritarian style. Like those two, they're way over here. And I feel like all the other ones kind of like end up like in here. And these are the ones I want to talk about. So a lot of these parenting styles you've probably heard of. And if you haven't, definitely do your research. And that's the cool part, is you get to do your research on all these different parenting styles and learn the things that work for you and learn the things that don't work for you, the things that feel good for you. Really think about it, pray about it, see what feels good in your body, what feels good for your family, what feels good for your child, and trust in that. So let's start with gentle parenting. So I love that gentle parenting has a huge focus on feelings. If you watch any video about gentle parenting, I think most of the people who are talking about it talk about feelings and how important feelings are. There are feeling charts and all of this stuff. Although I don't feel like the gentle parenting community has done a well-rounded approach to feelings. I absolutely love Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart. She even has a documentary series, I think on HBO Max. But she has a book, and this talks all about the different emotions that we feel. And the craziest part, in the beginning of the documentary, she's like, most people can only like identify 4, maybe. And how true is that? Like, I can think for myself at the beginning of my journey, I really only knew like angry, sad, mad, happy, joyful, maybe. Like I could not identify these feelings. And when I started educating myself and I started studying a little bit about emotional intelligence, I was like, whoa, I had no idea about any of this stuff. I had no idea the world that could open up and the language that I had just entered into based off of learning about emotions and feelings. And, feelings, there are some people who believe that, feelings are just feelings and they mean nothing. And to me, feelings are so much more than that. They are just a communication or this red flag for a need that is not being met. So this unmet need. If you're unfamiliar with this idea of feelings and unmet needs, you can check out Nonviolent Communication. I'll make sure to link that after this goes, after I like re-upload it. But yes, I believe 100,000% in understanding nonviolent communication, understanding feelings and needs, and helping your child to work through that. And so that part of gentle parenting, I just love. I love that there is such an appreciation for feelings and a huge awareness for them. And I think that's the best way to say that. Okay, so let's talk about respectful parenting. So I love Janet Lunsbury. I've followed her for years, ever since I actually had my first daughter. Months after I had her, I started discovering her work and Magda Gerber. And I love respectful parenting space. That's probably another one that I can really resonate with. I love how straightforward that respectful parenting can be. There really isn't any sugarcoating things. It's talking to them like humans. It's there's no like confusing buttery words. I don't know how else to say that. Like a funny story, I've told this before, where my daughter was at dance class and the teacher at 3 years old tells her to button her lips. Now, my very logical 3-year-old keeps talking all class long. And so after class, I said, hey, could you tell me why you didn't button your lips? And I used the exact terminology, so I wanted to see what she was going to say. And she goes, well, I didn't have a button. And I was like, oh, honey. she didn't mean that literally, like, and I think that sometimes I see this a lot in the gentle parenting space. We use these really cutesy phrases to be gentle and soft. And like our child's just straight up confused. They just need straightforward, like, pick up your blocks. Hey, right now we are done with blocks and it's time that we go eat lunch. Like very, very simple, giving very simple and basic directions. And so that is something that I absolutely love about the respectful parenting approach. Like I said, I will link some of the respectful parenting things that I really love. I've read both of Janet Lonsbury's books, and those are awesome. So anyway, I think that you will like respectful parenting if you kind of like my approach, because I kind of land there, just not fully. Okay, the next one I want to talk about is conscious parenting. So I love that conscious parenting really has a perspective on the emotional hurts of the parent. I believe that how we were emotionally affected as a child, that shows up in our parenting. It's a lot of what I do with coaching is I help you identify your triggers. Why do you keep getting triggered by this one thing? And I help you to find solutions that will help you to heal, to find true deep healing so you don't keep creating the same patterns that you don't like and you don't want to keep doing. And so it's really important to me when I'm working with clients to help them to start understanding that emotion, that feeling. Like I said, I talk a lot about nonviolent communications and feelings and needs. And when we start to identify those, we start to dig into your past and we start to dig into what came up for you as a child in these same moments that you're getting triggered with your child. And it really brings a lot of clarity. And so I think that's why in the beginning I mentioned, like, I really resonate with the conscious parenting approach. It's probably the one that's like the closest to me. But I don't know. They all have their things, you guys. They all have their things that I really, really like. Okay, the next one that I want to talk about is attachment parenting. This really focuses on creating a safe and secure, strong attachment with a child and their caregiver. This is actually something I wish I learned before even having children. I wish I understood attachment. I wish I understood how important it was in those beginning days, especially in that first year, especially in those first couple months, first couple weeks, first couple days, first couple hours. Like, so, so, so important. As many of you know, part of my story is both of my daughters spent over 2 weeks in the NICU. With my first daughter, we were immediately separated at birth. And with my second daughter, we didn't find out she had anything wrong with her until 2 days after birth. If you want to listen to her whole story, I will link it below. But I had shared all of that on the podcast a couple of years ago. And yeah, I had some deep hurts and traumas that happened in our first year that I had nothing I could do. Like I could not change the circumstances at that NICU, but man, I could have done a lot of things differently once those kiddos came home to create that secure attachment. So much of those beginning days really stripped the innate very natural, primal feelings and emotions and instincts, that's the word I'm looking for, that came out of me. And because it was so stripped from me, I didn't know how to do that. So I just did what the parenting guru said and the parenting book said and what the pediatrician told me. And I never looked within. And so now as I'm growing as a parent, I'm really learning to look within. And that's what I help parents to do, is I help them to learn how to create that connection, how to prioritize that. Because not only for myself is it important, but children need connection to learn. That's why play is so huge in helping children to learn things like telling stories, doing just kind of a role play back and forth with different characters can be really helpful for kids to heal, to learn a lesson, any of those kinds of things. So those are just some tools in your toolbox that can help you to help your child to learn these skills and these tools. Because in my mind, as a parent, I want to give my child an entire toolbox when they're 18 years old that really sends them off into life and gives them the opportunity to choose these different tools and try them out. Doesn't mean the tool is going to work, right? Like they're going to be out on their own and they're going to be like, oh, I think I want this hammer. And they realize they really needed a screwdriver like halfway through. So they actually put the hammer down and they grab the screwdriver. And then as they start using the screwdriver, they realize, oh my gosh, I really needed a flathead screwdriver, not the Phillips head screwdriver. So they put it down and they grab the one they actually need. And that's how they actually learn which ones they need. But at least they have the toolbox to pick from and to choose from. And that's the most important thing to me. Okay, the last parenting style that I want to talk about is slow, simple parenting. This one is it's a very small community. I have not seen a ton of people talking about this, but there's this book that I started reading not very far in. I never like sharing books when I haven't read the whole thing, but I think this one's going to be a really good one. It's called Simplicity Parenting by Dr. Kim John. Might be something after that pain. I don't remember. I'm so sorry. I will link it and I will also put it over here so you guys can see it afterwards. But I love that this approach really focuses on savoring a child's childhood. It is all about making sure that they are not having this information overload. What was surprising to me in this book was how much information our child is absorbing. And once they've hit their capacity, that's when they start going into crazy land. That's when the stress happens. That's when those ADD, ADHD like symptoms happen. And so it's our job as a parent to filter that for them, to ensure that they don't have too many toys so their brain isn't getting overwhelmed and they're not playing with any of them. Raise your hand, press the like button if this is you and your kid. If you're like, you have 10,000 toys and you're not playing with any of them. We purged, I think, almost 70% of the kids' toys this past year, and they have been playing so much more. They've been playing kinder together. And yeah, it's been a huge, really cool transformation. And so I think that when we can slow down, when we simplify our lives, I don't even want to say implement slow living. That's why this is called slowish parenting, because I don't think that we actually, as parents, I think we have a really hard time living a truly slow lifestyle, right? Like kids kind of spice things up and they make it slowish. And so I think that when we can live in that, when we can have a slower parenting approach, we give more room to observe and to see what's going on for our child so we can make the right decisions, so we can help them through things the way that's going to actually help them. And like I said earlier, it really savors their childhood so they're not learning too much too soon. And I'm not even talking about inappropriate things here. I'm just talking about life things, like things that they just like developmentally aren't ready to learn yet. And that's okay. They're not supposed to, they will learn it. They're going to learn it. I mean, my example that I wish I had learned sooner was my kids are going to learn to sleep on their own. Okay. It took 2 years, but they will learn to sleep on their own. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to force it. I don't need to do sleep training. Man, I need to do a whole video on sleep training, but I do not need to do anything to make my child sleep. And that moment for me was just so eye-opening. If I could just slow down, if I could savor, if I could use that attachment style of parenting to really be there for my child, I think that in the end, sleep in specific would have gone so much easier. I think it would have gone smoother. I think we would have had a better transition. This doesn't mean things won't still come up, but I think that, yeah, it'll kind of yeah, and navigate itself. So if there is a parenting style that I did not mention and you're like, okay, what do you love about this parenting style? Comment that below. And also, if there was a parenting style that I mentioned and you were like, I really love this about this parenting style, what do you think? Ask me below, send me an email. I love talking about parenting. Obviously, as you guys can tell. So I would love to see that. So, like I said, don't hesitate to comment below with any questions you have about any of the parenting styles that I've mentioned. And as I said earlier, I just do not believe in attaching myself to any one parenting style because it may not be in line with what we value. It may not be in line with our strengths and who we are as a human, our personality. All of that plays a role. So, anyhow, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And yeah, I don't know when I'm going to be on live next, but I just so appreciate you guys spending the evening with me. Alrighty, guys, happy parenting.